The lands we call Portugal and Spain today have had various influences on them down through history, from the Romans to the Visigoths, but one element that is often overlooked is the Celtic influence on the Iberian Peninsula. Now, we often speak these Celtic origins without even thinking about it, every time we say the word Portugal. The word Portugal derives from the combined Roman-Celtic place name Portus Cale. We know that Portus is the Latin word for port. Cale, however, is thought to be of Celtic origin, although the meaning is debated. One popular theory is that Cale could come from the Callaeci, also known as the Gallaeci, who were a Celtic tribal complex who inhabited the northwest corner of the Iberian Peninsula. So Portus Cale could mean the port of the Callaeci, which would make sense logically. Galicia or Galicia, in the northwest corner of the Iberian Peninsula, actually takes its name from the Gallaeci, with this Celtic legacy also exemplified by the people of Galicia and parts of northern Portugal playing their version of the bagpipes, the gaita, with the people of Asturias and Cantabria in northern Spain also having a similar tradition. Other theories on the meaning of Cale suggest it may come from a Celtic word itself that means port, which seems strange given that Portus Cale would therefore mean port, which seems quite unlikely. Regardless of the precise meaning, the word Portugal itself is probably of part Celtic origin, but now let's turn our attention to look at the ancient Celtic tribes of the Iberian Peninsula and the reason why their influence declined over time. First up is the one I've already touched on, the Gallaeci, also known as the Callaeci, whose territory included parts of northwest Spain and northern Portugal. These are the epic Galician warrior statues, who are usually attributed to the Galician tribal complex, but they're also sometimes associated with other ancient peoples of the region, such as the Lusitanians. Regardless, these statues are slightly larger than natural size, and are thought to represent deified local heroes, who showed bravery on the battlefield, for instance. They date to around the 2nd century BC to the 1st century AD, and these people spoke the now extinct Celtic language Gallaecian, which is often classified as a Q Celtic language. The Galicians, as well as other Celtic tribes that we're going to look at later in this video, grew out of the Castro Culture, an ancient culture of the Iberian Peninsula that existed from around the 9th century BC until it was subsumed by the Romans around the 1st century BC. Their name means culture of the hill forts, with locals referring to them as castros, derived from the Latin word castrum, meaning castles. These castros dot the landscape of many parts of northern Portugal and northwest Spain still today. We know as well that a more ancient culture of Iberia was the bell beaker culture, a culture I have made various other videos on. Now, another two ancient Celtic peoples of the Iberian Peninsula were the Cantabrians and the Astures, who along with the Galicians, their names are still reflected in three northern provinces of modern-day Spain: Galicia, Cantabria and Asturias. The Cantabrians are quite interesting as they were regarded as the fiercest people of the peninsula, whose homeland lay along the Cantabrian mountains. Their name is thought to be a Latinised version of a local name that probably meant Highlanders. How fitting that I'm Scottish. And they were originally divided into around 9 distinct clans. And in fact, it was this northern region that posed the strongest resistance to Roman conquest, something we will see later in the video. Another fascinating Celtic tribal complex of the Iberian Peninsula is the Celtiberians, who probably included numerous smaller tribes and occupied the region in north-central Spain. They spoke the Celtiberian language and used the Celtiberian script as their main writing system. One of their main sites was Numancia in modern north-central Spain. Some ancient authors argued that there was a connection between the Celtiberians and the Callaeci tribes more to the southwest. Unlike many other Celtic tribes, the Greeks did not consider the Callaeci a barbarian people, as the Greek geographer Strabo describes them as sharing the same gentle and civilized character as the Turdetani, a people just to the south. Now, as far as the origins of these Celts in Iberia, it seems there was a massive migration of Celtic-speaking people from Central Europe into Iberia during the Iron Age, sometime during the 1st millennium BC. And in fact, when we look at the genetic history of the Iberian Peninsula, we do see a massive influx of Northern and Central European ancestry during the Iron Age. As I note in my video on Spanish DNA, a study looked at the genomic history of the Iberian Peninsula over the past 8,000 years, found that during the Iron Age, there was a consistent trend of increased ancestry related to Northern and Central European populations moving into Iberia. This ancestry varied in different regions, but this study found it was at 28 to 43%, and 3 individuals at La Jolla, where Indo-European Celtiberian languages were likely spoken. So there probably was an influx of Celtic-speaking people into Iberia during the Iron Age, but there also seemed to be some mixing with the locals to varying degrees as well. Now there was various other tribes of ancient Iberia, some Celtic, some not, but I'm not going to go through them all in this video. The final tribe I will mention though is the Lusitanians. Now it is unclear whether these people were Celtic or not. Some argue they were, some argue they weren't, but there probably was at least some Celtic influence on them. We do know that they spoke an Indo-European language. Another thing we do know is that the Lusitanians unified with the Celtiberians and other Celtic peoples to rebel against the invading Roman forces during the 2nd century BC. We know that this rebellion was led by the Lusitanian leader Viriatus between around 147 and 139 BC. His resistance came to an end when 3 Turdetanian warriors who participated in the Lusitanian War were bribed by the Romans to kill Viriatus. They obliged, murdering him in his sleep. When the assassins returned to the Romans for their payment, they were told that Rome does not pay traitors who kill their chief, or so one version of the story goes. These events took place within the broader Lusitanian War that began in 155 BC and resulted in a Roman victory. The Lusitanian War itself took place within a much larger resistance against the Roman conquest of the Iberian Peninsula, which actually began in 206 BC during the Second Punic War against Carthage, when Rome retook lands in southern Iberia that were under Carthaginian control. After this, the Romans then turned their attention to Celtic lands, with the Celtiberians fighting numerous wars against the Romans. These wars culminated in the Numantine War, which itself was brought to an end with the Roman siege of the Celtiberian stronghold of Numantia. The Romans blockaded the town in 133 BC by establishing 6 miles of continuous ramparts around it. After an 8-month siege, Numantia was reduced by hunger, and some even engaged in cannibalism. Many of the inhabitants eventually chose to commit suicide as opposed to accepting Roman rule. This Roman victory was also supported by the forces from the Kingdom of Numidia in North Africa. The final war in the Roman conquest of Iberia was in the form of the Cantabrian Wars, fought between 29 and 19 BC in this northern region of modern Spain. The Romans needed 10 years of war and 8 legions with their auxiliary troops, which amounted to more than 50,000 soldiers in total, to finally subdue these fierce Celtic tribes of the Cantabria, the Astures and the Gallaeci. The conquest of Iberia was finally completed under the first Roman Emperor, Augustus, in 19 BC. The Romans' name for the Iberian Peninsula was Hispania, with the word Spain itself deriving from Hispania. The names of these Celtic tribes of northern Iberia still lives on today in the names of these northern provinces of Spain, and there are various other references to the Celts in Spain and Portugal today. To find out more about the various different influences on Spain and how the genetics of the country has changed over the years, please click here. Thanks for watching, please subscribe and hit the bell, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.